Today I've already prepped my face with Chiseled Face Natural Pre-Shave Gel. And my razor is going to be this one-piece twist to open. It's a Gillette Slim Twist razor right there, one of those. And my soap, well, I forgot to mention, by the way, in there, I'll show you the blade. It'll be on its second use. And up here I'll have to show you a picture of what the wrapper or the tuck looks like for the blade, but it's a Sputnik blade on its second use. And I guess it was the last one I had, and for some reason I threw away the wrapper. I'd like to have the wrapper or the tuck to show you, but anyway, second use on that. And my soap is going to be this Panta Rei Marrakech shaving soap. And my brush, which I've already lathered, is this Marchese. It's a Manchurian badger knot and Thuya Wood handle, if I'm pronouncing that right. A nice hardwood. I want to say it's from Africa, but I'm not sure. It's a very nice handle and a very nice knot. So I'm going to run a little bit of hot water here. And hope you're all doing well this week. I'm going to try to get a lather started. I just want to dip the tips of the brush just a little bit in that hot water, and now I'm going to go ahead and try to get this lather going. I forgot what a lovely scent this soap has. I used it only once before. So it'll only be my second time using this soap. Unfortunately, I do not have the matching aftershave that goes with it. I'm sure that's nice too. I forget why I don't have that. It's either because I was at the end of my budget or because I couldn't find it readily available online, but I'm sure if it wasn't available, I'm sure it is now, the matching aftershave. Let me go ahead and drain the water in here and wet my razor. And we'll begin pass number 1 with the grain. Here we go. About 2 days worth of growth here. And let's see, it's been kind of a rough last couple of days. My neighbor lady that owns Maple, that dog that I walk sometimes, the yellow German Shepherd, she passed away. So now I have Maple in the other room. The lady's daughter and a couple of her sisters are coming on Monday, and the daughter is going to take the dog so that Maple will have what she called a huge fenced-in yard to run around in. And she'll have a couple of friends because they have another dog and a cat. And she says the other dog chases the cat all the time, so Maple can chase the cat too. And I guess they all get along, I hope. Excuse me while I rinse the razor. That rinsed pretty quickly. A different neighbor lady wanted me to check on my neighbor that owned the dog here. Well, the dog is out there, but I didn't, and she said she couldn't because Maple would bark. Maple didn't know her that well, so she didn't trust her and wouldn't let her in. And I wasn't feeling well, and I was trying to get some sleep myself, but I now wish I had gone and checked on my neighbor lady. But I don't know if it would have done any good. Unfortunately, me and this other neighbor lady were the ones that discovered Maple's owner deceased. I've never had that happen before. And sometimes, or a lot of the time, this lady that owned Maple would leave her door unlocked so I could go in there, get the dog, take it for a walk. It usually did have enough food and water. But if it didn't, I would give it some food and water. But usually she had food and water out for the dog. And Maple drinks a lot of water. But I had seen this lady asleep before on her couch, and sometimes you couldn't tell if she was moving or not, breathing. And so this time it fooled me for a little bit. I'll tell you more in a minute. So I waited a few minutes and I was looking to see if this lady was breathing, and as it turned out she wasn't. And I think she had passed away not that long before, but probably after we would have gone to check on her. And I'm saying that because her skin was cool to the touch, but it wasn't ice cold, and rigor mortis had not set in. I checked for a pulse, and I couldn't find one, but I'm not very good at that. So this other neighbor lady who used to be a nurse checked for the pulse, and unfortunately she said she was dead. Maple's owner was, I should say. And then just to make sure, I called 911, and a couple of cops came out. One of the cops was the first one to check for any signs of life, and he said that he told the paramedics that arrived shortly thereafter that she was probably gone, but they checked and found out the same thing, of course. Sorry about all this disturbing news, but it's really sad, and I know these things happen, but the lady was 62 years old. I'm going to rinse the razor. I'll come back freshly lathered, and then we'll go across the grain. Okay, we'll start to go across the grain now. I am enjoying this soap, and I'm enjoying this blade. It's very nice. This might be the most comfortable shave I've ever had with this particular razor. So unlike some of my shaves last week, this seems to be a good razor and blade combination. And I did have a good Thanksgiving. In fact, I shared my meal with the neighbor lady that owned Maple, and she seemed in good spirits, and other people that had seen her on Thanksgiving said she seemed in good spirits. I didn't have a real fancy Thanksgiving, but I had a nice one. Excuse me. And I hope you all had a good Thanksgiving. And as a lot of other people, better people than me even, which goes without saying, I'm sure, but better people than me will tell you the same thing I'm about to tell you. Cherish your loved ones. Keep in touch with them and hold them dear to your heart, because you never know when they may be gone. And God forbid, because if there is a God, I don't want him taking your loved ones away from you. And I don't want any more friends or loved ones taken away from me, although I know we all have to go sometime. But, yeah. I'm sorry if this shave is turning into what the American networks back in the 70s might have called a very special conversational shaving. Excuse me. Yeah, when they said stay tuned for a very special, I don't know, All in the Family or something, that meant there was going to be something, a lesson to be learned, or something really tragic or really meaningful was going to happen. Something that touched on social issues or personal family issues, things other people might be going through in real life. That back before the term jumped the shark sort of jumped the proverbial shark itself, that term referred to the point when a television series kind of had a bad episode and never got good again, named after the time that Fonzie on water skis jumped a shark in a tank, I think at SeaWorld or something like that, on the old show Happy Days, which was supposed to be set in the late 50s and early 60s. They say that that show, although it stayed on the air for several more years, was never quite as good as it had been after that episode. And the now defunct website jumptheshark.com, which was bought by somebody else and closed down, might have been TV Guide that bought them, but people would sometimes opine that it was the first A Very Special episode of some particular show that made it jump the shark, so to speak, and never be quite as good again. I hope that's not the case here. I'll be right back, then we'll go against the grain. Okay, now stay tuned for a very special Against the Grain. I'll begin on my neck. At some point, I think I started getting heavy-handed again because my neck feels a little sensitive right now. So evidently, while going across the grain, I think it was on my neck, I might have overdone it somehow. I've got to be a little more careful. But of course, as you might imagine, I have things in my mind. Yep, the only time I'd ever been in the same room as a deceased person was at wakes or viewings, where you see the body before the actual funeral takes place at the graveside. I think if you're Catholic, they call it a wake, and if you're Protestant or of any other faith, I think they just call it a viewing. Yes, sir. Sometimes I laugh and I think to myself, can you imagine if there had ever been, like an announcement on Fox, a network here in the United States, saying, stay tuned for a very special Married with Children. What would that have been like? If you've never seen that show, you won't get the joke, but it was a show about just an awful family, and that's where a lot of the humor came from, them being so awful. That was a show that couldn't have taken itself seriously if it wanted to, I suppose. Whereas there would be other shows, earlier ones, like All in the Family, where the main character, Archie Bunker, the bigot, turns out to have some human qualities. Some good human qualities. Well, I'll be right back, and then it'll be pickup time. Well, I gave myself a little weeper. I don't know if you can see it on camera, but I've kind of wiped it off. It was one of those small weepers, not big enough to be called a bleeder or a cut, that just by wiping it and pressing on it, I may have stopped the little bit of bleeding there is, but I know some cold water when I rinse will probably definitely stop it, I hope. Oh, by the way, there's the magical clock over there this time. It's pickup time, like I said. Thank you, magical clock. You're a big help. Hi there. And again, not to hammer the point home too much, but I did have to make some difficult or awkward phone calls to people I really didn't know. This lady's, one of her sisters and her daughter, to let them know that she had passed away. I've only had to call somebody once before in my life to inform them that someone had passed away. And now, if you're tired of hearing about this, don't worry, because I'm tired of talking about it. I'm not saying that makes it any less of an important issue, passing away, or having a loved one pass away, but I don't want to, I'm not a completely morose person, or at least I try not to be. I suppose I like the murder and mayhem you might see in movies and on television as much as the next person, but I don't think I'm a completely morose person, although I have a little weeper here still. Okay, I'm gonna rinse my face, rinse the razor in no particular order, rinse the brush, and I'll come back to you directly here. Getting back in the spirit of things, say hello to Mr. Towel. Oh, that's nice. Mr. Towel's freshly laundered, so he smells good, and the soap has a nice scent. Scent strength of about 3 or 4 out of 10, but it's nice. Not strong enough to be peeling the paint off the walls, but a somewhat mild, but very pleasant rose scent. Okay, finished drying off here. Hope I didn't get any blood on the towel here, Mr. Towel. I think I closed that weeper up pretty good, I hope, with the cold water that I splashed on my face. I'll begin a brief recap and then I'll put the finishing touches on the shave here. Let me put Mr. Towel back where he goes. Okay. Off camera, I prepped my face before I started here with Chiseled Face Natural Pre-Shave Gel. My razor has been this one-piece twist-to-open Gillette Slim Twist razor. And, oh, I almost forgot, in there, I'll show you and I'll put a picture up over here. In there on its second use, I don't know if you can see that, but a Sputnik blade. There you go. And that worked really well for me for the most part. Just one weeper, and that was over here, right in this area. My soap, my shaving soap was Panta Rei's Marrakech shaving soap. They also make nice brushes. And speaking of nice brushes, my brush was an Marchese Thuya Wood handle brush with a Manchurian badger knot. Very nice. And let's see, I believe I've covered everything so far. So I'm going to reach over here. I'm going to shake this up a bit. I'm going to use some of this Zirh Erase aftershave relief tonic. And I guess about the only thing I could say bad about this is it has a mild medicinal scent that fades away pretty quickly, or gets buried by the scent of other things, which is good. I'm almost out of that. I was given that by someone. In fact, by someone, it belonged, I guess I'm sounding morose again, but it belonged to someone who, whose older brother had died, and that was one of the things he left behind. We lived in his house after he passed, and we got it ready. Me, my friend Josh, and his fiance at the time. It was his fiance's brother that passed, and he had good taste, and this is one of the things he left behind. Also left behind a gem featherweight razor, which she also gave to me. So that's Zirh Erase Aftershave Relief Tonic. I don't use it all the time, and it's lasted me several years. Now I'm going to reach over here for this. I guess this will be my last thing. I'm not going to apply a balm, since that tonic, it kind of, I wouldn't say it's as thick as a balm, of course. It's more like a lotion, but it does some nice soothing medicinal things for the face. But pairing up with the soap as best I can right now, I'm going to add some of this Lanman Rose Cologne. I'm going to shake that up a little bit. Unscrew the cap there, and oh, I almost forgot this bottle doesn't have a very good restrictor on it. In fact, it has no restrictor, even though the neck on the bottle is pretty thin. It fools me sometimes, as it evidently has done just now. So it's supposed to be a cologne. I'm going to use it more as an aftershave, and this will probably sting a lot, because it has a great deal of alcohol in it. And I can feel the burn, but that's okay. It's not altogether a bad feeling, and it means the alcohol in there is acting as an astringent and a germ killer. So once again, that's the Lanman Rose Cologne. I'm going to go now. Thank you if you've managed to watch this far. I'll try to be back here next week, hopefully in happier times. And may you all have peace in your lives, and just take care of one another. And I'll try to see you back here soon.